Okay, so we start the lecture. In the previous lecture, we learned about this all just theory, earthquake, which is horizontal layout, vertical layout, irregularities, horizontal irregularity, vertical irregularity. So there are many types of horizontal and vertical irregularities, and we designed that this irregularities does not happen in structural design, right? So today we learn about this how to calculate example base shear, right? So first, equivalent static lateral force. So determine design base shear, which is based on this four type, which is first is seismic hazard, second is building use group, third is total building mass, and the last is building fundamental period, right? So distribute base shear to building stories based on the story mass and its elevations. So design for story forces applied in each orthogonal direction. Also ensure inelastic story drift does not exceed code requirements. So seismic lump was, which is denoted by capital WI, here as shown in figure. The first story, which is denoted by W1, second is W2, third is W3, and fourth floor has a lump mass W4. Right here, height is here each floor has an equal height, which is denoted by HI. Right. So here uh, dead load which consists of preliminary member sizes and its unit weight. Whenever live load is consist of building occupancy. So at the meanwhile, earthquake load is equal to summation of dead load plus approximate imposed load. Imposed load means live load, right? So here design live load. Here two values are given. If design live loads criteria are up to 3 kilopascal, above 3 kilopascal, or for the roof, there is a code provisions provided for the percentage of design live load. How do we take this percentage of design of live load, right? So whenever design live load is up to 3 kilopascal, then the percentage will be taken as 25%. And if it's about 3 kilopascal, then percentage is taken as a 50%. And for the roof, there is no live load because roof area which is not used for residential, right? It is also it is mainly given the roof house of the building, right? So for the roof there are no live load because also roof, sometimes the roof is usually used for uh, some maintenance purpose, right? But there are no generally next is design earthquake load, horizontal base shear, right? So there are two codes. First is NBC 105 and second one is IS 1893 2002. Here we do not use this NBC 105. Here we use IS 1893 2002. So we understand this both codal provision, but we only taken this or only consider this IS 1893 2002 code, right? So in NVC 105, BS is equal to CD multiplied by WI. Whenever in IS 1893 2002, VB is equal to AH multiplied by W. Here Wi is equal to seismic weight of the building, where seismic weight of the building is equal to dead load plus approximate percentage of live load. So the seismic weight at each level Wi shall be taken as the summation of the dead loads and the seismic live loads between the mid heights of the adjacent story, right? The next is earthquake load, which is here AH is equal to Z multiplied by I multiplied by SA divided by 2 multiplied by R multiplied by G, where AH is equal to design horizontal seismic coefficient SA by G is equal to average response acceleration coefficient, Z is equal to zone factor, I is equal to importance factor, and R is equal to response reduction factor, right? So this AH is equal to design horizontal seismic coefficient, right? And this all terms you understand in this below's criteria, right? So in the other side for NBC 105, CD is equal to design horizontal seismic coefficient, where C is equal to basic seismic coefficient, Z is equal to zone factor, I is equal to importance factor, and K is a structural performance factor. Remember that we only use or consider this IS 1893 2002. I given this information about NBC 105 is only for the information, right? It's no use for this chapter. Next is basic seismic coefficient, right? The basic seismic coefficient C and SAG shall be determined from the appropriate site subsoil category using the fundamental time period determined, right? So here, how we find out this SA by G? SA by G is find out or SA by G is generally is given this in this chart. SA by G is find out by using fundamental natural period S and type of subsoil, which is here denoted. First inner curve is type 1, which is rock and hard soil. The second curve is type 2 medium soil, and third is for type 3 soft soil. So if here we given as a 0.5 fundamental nature period, and here type 1 rock and hard soil is given, so here we consider that where is the interaction point. So here 2.5 is considered considered as interaction point, right? So SA by G value is 2.5, right? So there is only two values given, fundamental nature period and type of soil. Because of these two values, we easily find out this SA by G, which is a basic seismic coefficient, right? I hope you understand that. uh, Here we also find out from this a small equation, which is subs for type 1 soil, 0.01032 divided by T, type 2 0.04 divided by T, and type 3 0.08 divided by T, where T is equal to fundamental natural period, right? There are two different types of charts given in this for NBC 105 there is a different criteria, and for IS 1893 2002 there is a different criteria. Next is the period of vibration, NBC 105, right? So here the period of vibration, which is TI, shall be established from properly sustained substan- substantiated data or computation or both. Where seismic coefficient method is used, the fundamental translation period in the direction under consideration, T1 shall be determined from T1 equation is T1 is equal to 2 pi under root of summation of Wi dA square divided by G summation of Fi di, right? And for the purpose of initial member sizing, the following approximate formulas for Ti may be used. First, Ti is equal to 0.085 h raised to 3 by 4 for steel frames. T1 is equal to 0.06 h raised to 3 by 4 for concrete frame. And the last, T1 is equal to 0.09 h divided by under root d for the other structures. If T1 calculated using this equation is greater than 120% of that finally calculated using equation, the seismic forces shall be reassessed, right? So approximate fundamental natural period TA, which is TA is equal to 0.075 h raised to 0.75 for steel frames, right? So these three criteria, TA is equal to 0.085 h raised to 0.75 for concrete frame, and for other structures TA is equal to 0.09 h divided by under root d. So these criteria, these three conditions of TA, fundamental natural period TA, which is given in IS 1893 2002, right? So these are this NBC criteria, NBC core criteria, and these are this 2002 core criteria, right? Where H is equal to height of building in meter. This exclude the basement story where the basement walls are connected with the ground floor deck or fitted between the building columns. But it also includes the basement story when they are not so connected. So that's why small d is equal to base dimension of the building and the plinth level in meter along the considered direction of the lateral force. Next, site subsoil category, which is given criteria in NBC 105. Type 1 is a rock or stiff soil site. Sites with bed rocks, including weathered rock with an unconfined compression strength, which is greater than 500 kilopascal, overlain by less than 20 meter. Very stiff cohesive material with an unconfined compression strength, which is greater than 100 kilopascal. Whenever very dense cohesion-less material with N which is greater than 30, where N is the standard penetration SPT value. Such sites will typically have a low amplitude natural period of less than 0.2 seconds. Type 2 is a medial soil sites, sites not described as either type 1 or type 3. Type 3 soil is a soft soil sites where here three tables given. First is cohesive soil classification, which is soft, firm, stiff and very stiff soil. There is a representative undrained shear strength which is expressed in kilopascal, and the last minimum depth of soil which is expressed in meters. When soil is soft, then the undrained shear strength is value is 12.5 to 25 and its minimum depth is 20 meter. For a firm soil, shear strength is taken between 25 to 50 kilopascal and the depth of soil is 25 meter. For the stiff soil, the shear strength is between 50 to 100 kilopascal and minimum depth of soil is 40 meter, right? When very stiff soil, shear strength taken as 100 to 200 kilopascal and the depth of soil is 60 meter. The seismic zoning factor Z, right? So Z shall be obtained from figure from the approximate locations for NBC, right? Otherwise, for IS 893 2002, there are already given. If a seismic zone which is denoted by Z, in the last table you see that if our we consider the zone 2, then we take a seismic zone factor factor 0.10. For zone 3, factor is taken as 0.60. For zone 4, factor is 0.24, and for zone 5, factor is taken as 0.36, right? So it's based on the zone given to 2, 3, 4, 5 zone. There are values of this Z. Next, moving forward, importance factor. So for importance factor, which is denoted by I, NBC and IS 89 IS 1893 criteria is different. So here we understand this IS 1893 code, where type of building and importance factor is given. When the important services and community buildings such as hospitals, schools, monumental structures, emergency buildings like telephone exchange, television stations, radio stations, railway stations, fire station building, large community halls like cinemas, assembly halls, subway stations, power station. So if this building if given this type of buildings, then you take importance factor 1.5, and besides of that, if another building or other buildings are given, then we take important factor as 1, right? Next is governing factor for I. So functional use, there are various functional use of structures, hazardous consequences of its failure, post-earthquake functional needs, historical value, and economic importance. With the help of this, we find we governing the factor for I. So the minimum permissible value of the structural performance factor K and associated detailing requirements are also given, right? So these all are for NBC criteria, right? Here, response reduction factor, which is R, is is taken as if there are ordinary reinforced concrete moment resisting frame, which is denoted by OMRF. Then we take response reduction factor R is a 3. If there is SMRF, which is special RC moment resisting frame, then we take R response reduction factor R is equal to 5. If steel frame with the concentric braces, then we take 4. With eccentric braces, then it will take 5. Still moments resisting frame designed for as per SP6, then it's taken as a 5, right? So there are various criteria given in this building, which is generally based on building frame system. Differ the building frame system, there are different reduction factors available here. Now, gravity loading. Dead load, which is considered as a self-weight superimposed load. The dead load is calculated from the design member sizes and its estimated material density. Wherever imposed load, which is occupancy type, the magnitudes of live loading specified in the course are estimates based on a combination of experience and result of a typical field survey. Earth pressure, a predominantly static type of loading calculated from the density and depth. For wind, dynamic pressure on the exposed surface area. For the earthquake, dynamic random motion of the ground at the base. Now, earthquake versus wind loading. So, dynamic actions are caused on buildings by both wind and earthquake, but the design for wind forces and for earthquake effects are distinctly different, right? As you shown this figure, earthquake versus wind loading, right? First figure is expressed as there are if the building is in motion while it's earthquake load, and the second is shown so that this because of this wind loading, the building is right. So because of wind loading, how building will moment, right, or how the building will defect or bend. So there are two different scenarios here. First is because of earthquake load, and second is because of wind loading. How building will react with this two type of loading. So design for wind loading. Wind design is a force type loading. Use force design wherein the building is subjected to a pressure on in its exposed surface area. The building is subjected to random motion of the ground at its base, which includes inertia force in the building that in turn causes the stresses, which is displacement loading, right? So earthquake loading consists of inertial forces of the building mass that result from the shaking of its foundation by seismic activity. As you shown this figure, when there is because of this acceleration or inertia forces, there are shaking of this foundation, right? So concentrate particularly on the translation inertia forces whose effects on a building are normally more significant than the vertical of rotation shaking components. So the earthquake induced inertia forces include the mass of the building and the building stiffness. Elastic behavior without damage rendered the project economically unavailable unviable. As a consequence, it may necessary for the structure to undergo damage and thereby dissipate the energy input to it during the earthquake. Thus, the basic philosophy here we used first is minor or frequent shaking with no damage to structural and non-structural elements. Second is moderate shaking with minor damage to structural elements and some damage to non-structural elements. And the last one is severe, which is infrequent shaking with damage to structural elements but with no collapse to save life and property inside or adjoining the building. Buildings are designed only for a fraction of the force that they would experience if they were designed to remain elastic during the expected strong ground shaking and thereby permitting damage, but sufficient initial stiffness is required to be ensured to avoid structural damage under the minor shaking, right? Thus, the basic philosophy here we consider that actual structure and because we designed this using earthquake load. It is the elastic structure which is bear the maximum force if the structure remains elastic, so it will bear the more of the forces. And these are this minimum design that codes require to be used. And when we design using this EQ, earthquake load and wind loading, our structure is more elastic than this actual design force, right? So there is a reduction in design force when some damage can be allowed. So here lateral force versus lateral deflection graph is given. The design for only a fraction of the elastic level of seismic force is possible only if the building can stably withstand large displacement demand through structural damage without collapse and under loss of strength, which is also known as ductility. It is relatively simple to design structures to possess certain lateral strength and initial stiffness by appropriately proportioning the size and the material of the members. But achieving sufficient ductility is more involved and requires extensive laboratory tests on the full-scale specimens to identify preferable methods of detailing. Thus, the seismic design balances reducing cost and acceptable damage to make the project viable. This careful balance is arrived based on extensive research and detailed post-earthquake damage assessment studies. So, design against the earthquake effects is called as earthquake-resistant design and not earthquake-proof building. So, an earthquake resistant building has four virtues as we studied already: good seismic configuration, minimum lateral strength, lateral stiffness, minimum lateral strength, and good overall ductility. So, we going to the analytical method. Static seismic coefficient method, which is simple regular configuration building where height is less than 40 meter. Second is dynamic response spectrum method, in which irregular building in plan or elevation, building with abrupt change in strength and stiffness in plan and elevation, and building with unusual shape, size and importance. And third is dynamic time history method. Now we study that static seismic coefficient method. The governing factor for KRR's overall strength, ductility, and its redundancy. So distribution is of earthquake load. So distribution of storage shears into different frames. Frame forces proportional to the stiffness of the frame. Additional forces due to torsional effects, which is eccentricity, difference in center of mass and center of rigidity is known as eccentricity. When eccentricity is present, then the total horizontal earthquake force in building increases downward along its sides, and for the result, as you shown in this figure, building will be collapse, right? So distribution of base shear is a design seismic force at each level I. Floor is denoted by I. Right here, first floor force is F1, F2, F3, F4. Right here for IS 980, Fi is equal to VB, which is base shear, is equal to WIHI square divided by summation of WJ square. Here load combinations for NBC given. Here we go for IS 1893. Load combination given is for working stress method and for limit state method. 1.5 dead load plus 1.5 live load, 1.2 dead load plus 1.2 live load, plus or minus 1.2 earthquake load. But third one is 1.5 dead load plus or minus 1.5 earthquake load, and the last is zero point 0.9 dead load plus or minus 1.5 earthquake load. So this all are the load combinations given in IS 1893. Here we next in the next lecture we studied these examples of this design of base shear, right? So if you have any query regarding this methods, so you can easily contact me or call or message me, right? So thank you so much.